everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's your girl, Lori, and I want to talk to you about not letting your negative or bad days bleed over in everybody else's, and not let their bad day bleed into you. It's really important because, I see it a lot, So because you have stress or you're feeling some kind of way or you're just having a day, right? Doesn't mean everybody has to walk on eggshells. Hard pass, right? And it's important that you're not walking on eggshells for other people's bad days or negative days, right? I like to say negative because bad seems so like, every day is not bad. You can just have like difficulties or stressors. So I want you to think really clear on that, because when you're having a bad day, and been there, done that, bought the shirt. Like, I'm not saying, hey, don't do this. I've never done it. Oh no, I've done it a lot. And that's why I'm like, I got to check myself, just like you got to check yourself. Because there's been times, let's say I'm looking for my keys, right? Or phone or something, and I'm in a hurry. I'm like looking for it. And then somebody would go, hey, did you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, you're all flustered, right? So you want to be careful of letting your bad days bleed into somebody else's life, right? Just because you're frustrated because you can't find your keys, or you had a bad day at work, or all of these things. And I've said this a million times, just because you live with people, you have a partner, does not give you permission to dump on them anytime you feel like it. Oh no. Okay. So I've said it, and I'll repeat it multiple times, because so many times you think, well, I'm just having a bad day, I just got to vent. Well, guess what? Your person might not be in a space to hear you. No, they might not be, and they don't have to be. So if you're having a day and you're like, oh man, I really need to talk to this person, that's where you say, hey, are you in a space to hear me right now? They might not be. Don't get your feelings hurt. Don't feel entitled that everybody has to drop what they're doing and talk to you in that moment. If somebody has had a long day themselves and you've had a long day, you don't get to just assume that your day matters more than somebody else's. It doesn't. Good, bad, or indifferent. So when you find yourself wanting to just dump, ask if somebody's in a space to hear you. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if somebody's not in a space to hear you, you're going to get more irritated. Because then you're talking to somebody and they're like, wait, what? Like, huh? Like, now they seem flustered. Now you're annoyed. Oh, I'm sorry. My day doesn't seem to be important to you. So now your frustration, their frustration, they don't mix. All right. So now let's flip that. Let's say you're the person on the receiving end of that. You're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, the kids have driven me crazy all day. And then your partner comes in, or your sister or your friend or your mom or whoever comes in, and they're like, oh my gosh, this day is crazy. Let me tell you what happened at work. And you're thinking, oh my God, please don't tell me what happened at work right now. Right. And so you say, listen, I want to hear you, but I am not in a space to hear you right now. That's not rude. That's a boundary for you, and it's preventing problems down the road. Right. And I promise I'm going to do a podcast on that, because I feel like y'all need to hear that on a regular basis, because what you don't want is somebody to be attentive to you and then they're checked out, and they may not be in a space to hear you ever. And if they're never in a space to hear you, then maybe they're not your people. Then it's like, okay, cool. Then maybe you distance. Stop trying to make somebody be attentive. You can't do that. Right now, if you're somebody like me with ADHD, I could be attentive to you and you could be telling me something serious, and a bird could fly by and I'd be like, I'd be like, wait, what? Wait, what'd you say? It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with my ADHD, right? So don't always take things personal either, right? You taking things personal, that's a you issue, right? I know so many people who are HIS, highly HSP. Oh my God, HIS is his. Highly sensitive people, like, that's fine, but it's a reason, not an excuse. So just because you're highly sensitive doesn't mean everybody else has to walk on eggshells. Do not dump your day on other people. It's not their journey. Okay. Yes, people can hear you. Yes, you want a good support system. Do not assume that just because you're married or you live with people, or that's your parent or that's your kid, that they have to be at your beck and call at every given time. Skirt. They do not. And you don't either. You're not being ignorant. You're protecting your peace. Because like I was saying before, you will create more problems if you're like, oh, fine. It's kind of like if you're a people pleaser, right? So this is for my people pleasers. And you go, you know what? Yeah, sure. Like, in your mind, somebody says, hey, can you come over and, I don't know, help me pack? And you're like, oh my God, I'd rather like go naked in the ocean with sharks. Sure, I'll be over. And meanwhile, you're like, I don't feel like being over. Okay, cool. You chose to do that. No, you didn't have to go. So now 3 weeks from now, you're like, hey, can you help me clean out the storage? Or I don't know, something. They're like, no, I'm not going to be able to make it. And then you go, fine. Like, I mean, that's fine. I mean, You're not saying it, but you're like, fine, I did it. And don't ever say, don't be like, well, I did this for you. Don't do something kind for somebody if you want something in return. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. So don't expect it. So this is why when you're people pleasing, you end up feeling lonely. You feel upset. You get hurt because you're like, I don't know. I feel like I care more. No, you don't. You're more codependent. Caring about something in someone is not codependency. It's quite the opposite of that. It's knowing like, hey, you know what? I love you. And if I tell you I'm not in a space to hear you, it's because not only do I respect myself, but I respect you enough to say, this is going to be a problem because I'm not in a space to hear you right now. And if I'm not in a space to hear you right now, you're going to get irritated with me. And if you're irritated with me, then, now it's going to become a problem. So you have to be careful of that, because the more that you put yourself in a situation or allow yourself to be put in a situation, what I mean by that is sometimes you're going to have those people come in like a bulldozer. They're going to come in like the day of this, the day of that. You're going to have to be like, excuse me, hold on one second. I'm not in a space to hear you right now. If they get mad, that's a them problem, not a you problem. If you get mad because somebody else is doing that, that's a you problem, not a them problem. No, people do not have to hear you on your terms. Hard pass. That's respect. So if you know that you're checked out, you're exhausted, you're drained, and you can't talk to that person at that moment, give them space. Hold space for them, just not in that second. Be like, you know what? I just sat in 3.5 hours worth of traffic, or you know what? Work was a little difficult for me too, and I really want to hear how your day was. I'm going to need like a couple hours. So let's, like after dinner, let's sit down, let's have a glass of wine. I really want to hear you. And then be committed to listen. Be committed to listen to them. Don't compare your day. Right? So once they're done talking, say, well, I'd like to kind of like tell you about my day too. Like, are you in a space to hear me? They might not be. Don't get your feelings hurt if you were in a space to hear them at 8 o'clock, but now they're so exhausted, they're not in a space to hear you. And they say, you know what, look, can we talk about it tomorrow? It has nothing to do with their time being more important. Do not get in your ego. Your ego will tell you that. Hard pass. Okay. Yes, it's great for people to be there. Yes, you want a support system. Yes, you actually need that. Yes, it shows that somebody cares. But you have to respect the fact that it might not be on your time. It's not the you show. For you, though, it is the you show. You must always be your first priority. You do not have to be anybody else's first priority. They need to be their first priority. When they're their first priority, you're your first priority. You guys know your boundaries and you have respect for each other. In turn, those relationships become a lot stronger and sustainable. And then this way, you're not walking around with these expectations of like, well, you got to hear me and you're not there for me and I want you to be here and now you're not listening. And if you're constantly negative, I don't care who you are. And like I said, been there, and for a solid 12 years, I don't know if I could even say the word positive. My God, it was awful. I was negative about everything, complained about everything. Too hot, too cold. Poor me, poor me. Why aren't you doing this? This is wrong. Load the dishwasher that way. Fold the laundry that way. Like, oh my God, you want to talk about somebody. It's amazing. I even had like people around me from late teens to end of my 20s, middle to end of 20s. It's amazing because I was negative. And I realize how taxing it is, especially doing the job that I do now. See, it's different. When people come to me with negativity, it's because they're trying to work it out. I don't think I was trying to work it out. And sometimes you or other people around you, you say you want to feel better, but now you don't. You don't, because you got to do the legwork. I'm telling you, when my psychiatrist back in the day and one of my therapists was like, yeah, I'm going to have to stop seeing you. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you're going to have to stop seeing me? Yeah. I'm giving you instructions and things to do, but you're not doing it. And it's just wasting both of our times. I needed that. And that's my approach with my clients, right? Yeah, it's going to hurt your feelings at first. You're going to be like angry. Well, yeah, because your ego got bruised. Somebody called you on your stuff. You need to be called on your stuff a lot. You don't realize it, but you do, right? So as you go into these expectations and you're having negative days, guess what? Every day is not good, but I promise you there's something good in every day, even if it's a lesson. So it's for you to process your feelings, not for you to go talk to your friend and then your friend side with you, even though she's probably like, oh my God, like you're being a little dramatic. I'm not going to tell you that. Sure, you're right. No, a true good friend isn't going to just side with you out of loyalty. That's not helping you. That's just feeding and poking the bear. So next time you're having a negative day, check yourself. It's for you to process. If you want to talk to somebody about it, you can call me any time of the day. Right? You can call me any time of the day, right? Because that's what I do for a profession. Don't go home and expect your spouse to just listen to you on a whim. Okay. And vice versa. When you do that, you start establishing boundaries. You have to be consistent in it. Don't worry about how they respond to it, because it might be you on the other end one day, right? And you have to respect that other people are not always going to be available to hear you on your time. So, with that being said, I want you to focus on your energy, focus, be aware, feel your feelings, baby.